Conservative MP for Fulham and Chelsea. Good evening to you. Hello, Greg Hands, can you hear me?
Yes, hello. Hello, Asma. Good evening.
You wrote a letter to Ofwat. What did it say in that letter?
Well, I've got it in front of me, and I said in the letter I would like to state my objection to the proposed 8% rise in the strongest possible terms, and objecting to the additional £29 rise. This is on top of a rise that was already 3% above inflation from Thames Water. The average water bill at the moment is about £350 for Thames, and I think we need to be doing everything we possibly can to keep down the cost of this kind of bill. What
I thought was instructive was that not only did Ofwat say that this increase is not justified, but they said your prices should be going down. Water companies' prices should be going down because there's been such a level of investment in water companies over the last couple of years. So I suppose the question to ask is how can the water companies be getting it so wrong?
Well, that's a very good question, which I think should be put to the water companies. I think Thames is run in an extraordinary way. They pay their chief executive, I think, about £800,000 or £900,000 pounds, which is about 6 times the level the Prime Minister is paid. And they're paying very substantial dividends. A growing business which is doing very well, doing successfully. I have no problem with them paying substantial dividends, but this is basically a monopoly. We're still not at the position where people can easily switch water providers like they can energy providers. And I think there seems to be an abusive position that Thames Water have in the market. So I'm really pleased that Ofwat has done something here to help hard-pressed consumers in Fulham and Chelsea, my constituency, and really throughout the Thames region, which goes all the way across to Cheltenham, up to Harlow in Essex, I think down to Gatwick Airport, a really big region of the country.
What about the other companies, or the other utility companies, which have been so much in the news recently? And I understand there is a distinction in that you can only really get your water from one company depending on where you are geographically. But when you look at the energy companies who seem to be able to increase their prices one after the other, pretty much by the same amount year on year, with no one saying to them, no, this is not justified, and consumers also feeling that when wholesale prices go up, bills go up, but when they go down, they're not getting that benefit. So, Thames Water have been kind of slapped over the back of the legs, but it's not going to happen to the energy companies.
Well, I'm not sure that's quite right, because with the energy companies, David Cameron and the government have now forced the energy companies to put everybody on the lowest tariff, which I think has done quite a bit, actually, to help people with their energy bills. Obviously, there is a bit of a difference between energy and water, because the wholesale price of energy has increased in the last couple of years. I'm talking here about sort of world market prices. Now, there is, as far as I'm aware, no world market on water prices. I don't think Thames are in any way arguing that their raw material has become more expensive in that sense. So I think there's a difference between energy prices, which effectively a lot of it is reflecting market increase in energy prices, and we've done quite a lot actually to try and bring down bills by forcing the companies to put you on the cheapest tariff. I think there is a difference, but the most important thing is to do whatever we can to keep these bills as low as possible for people. I think the London economy is healing at the moment, and the London economy is actually doing quite well overall at the moment. But we've got to do everything we can to keep these bills from rising.
Just a quick point. I'll come back to water in a second, but just on the energy companies, a lot of people don't take much comfort when they hear that David Cameron or whoever it might be says, oh, we're now going to force water companies to put everyone or tell them about the lowest tariff. That doesn't really matter if the lowest tariff is actually not that cheap.
Well, it does matter. My own household energy bill has gone down from £130 to £100 on a monthly basis, and that certainly makes quite a big difference to me. And I think that would make actually quite a big difference to others. So I think actually bringing those bills down, doing everything we possibly can against a backdrop of higher energy prices is very important. And it's really trying to prevent unnecessary rises in people's utility bills. Utility bills are also quite regressive. on low-income harvest. And that's in particular why we need to bear down on these.
Yeah, just finally then on Thames Water, they were talking about having to find this money to cover spiralling costs, the bill for London's new super sewer, and a rise in the number of customers failing to pay their bills. Now, those costs are not going to go away, so do you think that water companies like Thames will keep trying to increase prices?
Well, I think Thames need to do a fundamental rethink, which is what I've been urging the last 3 or 4 years now. Of the super sewer project. I think the super sewer project is fundamentally too expensive. At a cost of £4.1 billion, there is a problem with sewage going into the Thames from time to time. But in my view, it's certainly not a £4.1 billion problem. And actually, the River Thames is one of the cleanest commercial rivers anywhere in Europe. Last weekend, I took a Thames boat ride from Westminster to Greenwich, and the commentator, it was fascinating actually, the commentator on that cruise, as it's called, was extolling the virtues of the cleanliness of the Thames. I think there's a record number of fish species in the Thames. It really is a relatively clean river, considering how much commerce and trade is happening on that river.
Right.
I think there's other ways of approaching the problem. I know my local council, Hammersmith and Fulham, have proposed various schemes which would be significantly cheaper and probably definitely more cost effective at dealing with sewage going into the river and preventing it even happening in the first place based on new technology. I think the super sewer is very much based on old technology, an idea that's really at least 10 years out of date. Most cities in the world are not approaching their wastewater problems by building a massive sewer, which is the width of one of the rail tunnels, the Channel Tunnel, going pretty much the length of the Thames from Hammersmith all the way down to Greenwich.
Okay.
So I think Thames Water need a fundamental rethink of the super sewer project as well.
Well, let's see what happens. Greg Hands, thank you very much. That is Greg Hands, Conservative MP for Fulham and Chelsea, talking about the water regulator, water industry regulator, saying that Thames Water could not have the 8% exceptional price increase that they wanted to impose on customers. So Ofwat have said that they've done this in the public interest. Do you think other regulators should be doing the same, or are water prices a particular problem because they are a monopoly because of geographical factors? Are regulators doing a good enough job in curtailing the power of utility companies? Do you trust companies like Thames Water or others not to put their prices up in the future? And do you feel like you are getting value for money from utility companies? I know that Tina, who's texted in on 84850, doesn't feel that she is. She says, I'm extremely glad Thames Water will refuse to increase prices. We have had a leak on South Norwood Hill for over 5 weeks. It's been reported it must be wasting thousands of gallons of water. When it freezes, which could be soon, it could contribute to a bad accident, she says. 0845 6060 973. Ahmed is in Newmont.